What if untrained farmers pulled off the most perfect tactical trap in military history? Their target was a flat plain near the town of Cannae in southeastern Italy. They were sent to destroy a Carthaginian army of roughly 50,000 men. But by noon, the unimaginable happened. Between 50 and 70,000 Romans lay dead. It was the single worst military defeat in the entire history of the Roman Republic. Possibly the worst single-day battlefield loss of any army in the ancient world. Generals, senators, 2 consuls, and hundreds of prominent citizens, all wiped out in hours. But here is the thing that makes this story so much stranger than it sounds. Someone had warned them. Not a prophet, but a brilliant Roman general. He explained exactly why marching 80,000 men into a pitched battle would end in catastrophe. His name was Quintus Fabius Maximus, and the Roman Senate basically told him to shut up. So how did Rome's most innovative military thinker get sidelined at the exact wrong moment? To understand this, you first have to understand how terrifying Hannibal Barca actually was. Born in Carthage around 247 BC, his father was one of their greatest generals. Legend says his father made the young Hannibal swear an oath of eternal enmity toward Rome. Hannibal lived as if that oath were true. By his late 20s, he commanded forces in Spain. He was tactically brilliant, personally brave, and possessed a rare strategic imagination. He didn't just want to win battles. He wanted to win a war. And he had a plan. In 218 BC, Hannibal did something that nobody, including Rome, considered seriously possible. He marched an army of 50,000 infantry, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants. They marched through southern France, across the Pyrenees, and then over the freezing Alps. The Alpine crossing alone is one of the most extraordinary military achievements in ancient history. The conditions were brutal. Snow, ice, and hostile mountain tribes attacking from above. Narrow, treacherous paths meant a single stumble resulted in a 1,000-foot drop. Hannibal lost maybe half his men just surviving the mountains, but he made it. He arrived in northern Italy with perhaps 26,000 battle-hardened survivors. And then he immediately started winning. His genius was on full display. At the Trebia River, a Roman army was outmaneuvered and mauled. 20,000 Romans died. A few months later, in the spring of 217 BC, a new consul pursued Hannibal's army. Along the foggy shores of Lake Trasimene, Hannibal orchestrated a masterclass in ambush. 30,000 Romans marched straight into the fog, completely unscouted. The Carthaginians hit them from 3 sides simultaneously. The Romans were trapped against the lake. 15,000 Romans were slaughtered in less than 4 hours. The lake reportedly ran red. Rome had now lost 2 major armies in a matter of months. The city was in genuine panic. Less than 100 miles from Rome, the Senate convened an emergency session. They made a decision they hadn't made in over a century. They appointed a dictator. In existential crises, Rome could suspend normal government and give one man absolute authority. They chose Quintus Fabius Maximus. He was in his early 60s, a man of deep religious conviction. Fabius assessed the situation with cold clarity.
a trait often mistaken for timidity. He recognized three things. First, Hannibal's army was extraordinarily good in open combat. His cavalry, in particular, was vastly superior to anything the Romans had. Second, Hannibal was deep in enemy territory without a reliable supply line. Third, Hannibal desperately needed a decisive victory to force Rome to negotiate. None of those things would happen as long as Hannibal's army was slowly starving. So Fabius decided to not fight. He took his army into the hills above Hannibal's route. He watched, he followed, he cut off foraging parties and picked off supply trains.
He refused every invitation to fight on open ground where Hannibal's cavalry could dominate. This rugged terrain neutralized the Carthaginian horses and forced them to disperse for food. Fabius gave Rome the one resource Hannibal couldn't replenish: time. It was an elegant strategy, but to the Romans, it looked like sheer cowardice. Hannibal understood exactly what Fabius was doing. He knew he had to break this strategy, so Hannibal did something deliberately provocative. He marched into Campania. It was one of the most fertile and prosperous regions in Italy, and he began burning it. He looted and destroyed everything, but carefully left Fabius's own estate untouched.
The message to Rome was clear. Fabius is either a coward or he's made a deal with the enemy. Watching their allies burn while their army sat in the hills drove the Romans insane. Fabius's own master of horse, Minucius, openly mocked him and demanded to fight. When Fabius briefly returned to Rome, Minucius attacked a part of Hannibal's army. He achieved a minor success, and Rome went wild. They wanted more blood. The Senate did the unthinkable. They elevated Minucius to co-equal authority with the dictator. Fabius didn't blow up. He split the army, giving Minucius his half, and waited.
Hannibal saw his chance. He set a trap for the overconfident Minucius. Minucius charged in. The trap closed. His army was surrounded and on the verge of annihilation. At the last moment, Fabius appeared with his half of the army and rescued him. Minucius surrendered his command, calling Fabius his father. The strategy was vindicated, but the 6-month dictatorship was over, and Rome's patience had run out completely. Rome elected 2 new consuls. One of them, Varro, promised to end the war immediately. He promised to stop hiding in the hills and crush Hannibal on the open plain. And on August 2nd, 216 BC, Varro ordered the attack at Cannae. The ground was flat. A hot, dusty wind blew directly into the Romans' faces. Hannibal placed his weaker infantry in the center and his elite veterans on the flanks. As the heavy Roman legions pushed forward, the Carthaginian center intentionally bent backward. The Romans thought they were winning. They pushed deeper and deeper into the center. Meanwhile, Hannibal's superior cavalry annihilated the Roman horsemen on the wings. Then, Hannibal's elite veterans swung inward from the sides. The trap was sprung. The victorious Carthaginian cavalry returned and struck the Romans from behind. The encirclement was complete. 80,000 Romans were packed so tightly they couldn't swing their swords. What followed was a systematic slaughter that lasted the entire afternoon. Between 50 and 70,000 Romans died in a single afternoon. Among the dead were Consul Paulus, 80 senators, and hundreds of Rome's bravest officers. When the news reached Rome, The city fell into collective despair.
Allied Italian cities began to defect to Carthage. Rome's destruction seemed certain.
Hannibal's officers urged him to march on Rome immediately, but he refused. He lacked the siege equipment to take the massive walls of the capital. With their army destroyed, Rome finally accepted the bitter truth. Fabius was right. The Senate adopted the Fabian strategy as the official policy of the Roman Republic. No more pitched battles. For years, they harassed Hannibal, starved his troops, and waited. It was a brutal, grueling war of attrition. But it kept Rome alive. Slowly, methodically, Fabius and other generals retook the cities that had defected. Hannibal won every battle, but he was slowly losing the war. The paradox of Fabius was clear. The man who refused to fight was actually winning. Eventually, a young Roman general named Scipio studied Hannibal's tactics entirely. Scipio realized he couldn't beat Hannibal in Italy. He had to attack Carthage directly. By invading Africa, Scipio forced Carthage to recall Hannibal to defend his homeland. After 15 years of terrorizing Italy, Hannibal was gone. The Fabian strategy had worked. In 202 BC, Scipio and Hannibal met at the Battle of Zama in North Africa. Scipio used Hannibal's own encirclement tactics against him. Hannibal was finally defeated. Scipio returned to Rome as a legend, hailed as Scipio Africanus. But the strategy that saved Rome wasn't invented by Scipio. It belonged to the old man in the hills, Quintus Fabius Maximus. Fabius died in 203 BC, just before the final victory. But he died knowing Rome would survive. His legacy didn't end with the Roman Empire. The Fabian strategy became immortal. 2,000 years later, a man named George Washington faced the exact same problem. The American Continental Army could not defeat the British Empire in open battle, so Washington retreated. He harassed. He traded space for time. His critics called him a coward. They even called him the American Fabius. But by refusing to be destroyed, Washington exhausted the British and won the revolution. In the 20th century, Mao Zedong used the exact same logic for guerrilla warfare. He wrote that when the enemy advances, we retreat. When the enemy tires, we attack. This same strategy frustrated and defeated the United States military in Vietnam. His name was Quintus Fabius Maximus, and the Roman Senate basically told him to shut up.
Until next time, remember, strategy is everything. Thanks for watching.